Welcome back to the guidebook, everybody. Today I have a fun and exciting surprise. Today, me and Marie are collabing for a podcast episode. You might remember Marie from a previous episode on the guidebook, and she also hosts her own show, Self Growth Nerds. So definitely go check it out if you haven't already. And if you don't remember Marie, I'll reintroduce her real quick for you. Marie is a former designer and illustrator who decided to get certified as a coach after completing the Pacific Crest Trail, which I think most of you probably know already is a 6-month hike from Mexico to Canada. Very similar to the Appalachian Trail, just on the West Coast. And she discovered how overcoming self doubt to pursue your wildest dreams completely transforms your life. I very much relate to this as someone who completed the Appalachian Trail and felt so empowered by the experience. So, with the tools that she learned, she wrote a book, she started a podcast, changed careers, doubled her income, left a long term relationship, and even came out as queer. Since 2021, she's been teaching other colorful souls around the world to go after what they really want and lead a more meaningful life without freaking out. As you probably know by now, if you've heard our previous conversations, I worked with Marie as my coach for 2 years in a row. I hire her pretty much every new year to help me get back on track. And I love working with her. And if you've been not subscribed to my email list or listening to the intros or outros of these podcasts, you might not know that I'm hosting a retreat with Marie this October, and we are so excited to be collaborating on that as well. So if you're interested, go head to selfgrowthnerds.com/retreat for more info, or just listen to the end of this episode. We share more info then.
Hi, Rachel.
Hi, Marie. So
Thank
excited you're on my podcast again.
Oh, thank you for coming on my podcast. Two bird, one stone. Is that the expression?
It is. I kind of thought a little deeper about this the other day and realized we're talking about killing birds. I don't advocate killing birds.
No, it's a bit violent. We don't support.
We don't endorse killing birds, but we do endorse efficiency.
Mhm. Okay, so let's get serious because we have a lot to cover today.
Yeah. Let's start with the 5 symptoms of misalignment before we get into anything else. You really need to know the signs that you might need to make a change.
Yes. The first symptom that you're out of alignment is that you are performing. You're like an actor in your own play. You know what it's like to be you. You know what it's like to act normal, to be fine, but you don't really feel embodied. It's like you're playing in the movie of your life, but you're not really there. There's like a distance. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I feel like with this one, it's a really common, like, tangible symptom is you're shoulding yourself. That's what my therapist calls it. You're telling yourself, I should love this. I should be doing this. I should be a lawyer. I should be going to college. I should be staying in this job. I should love my husband. I should love whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not actually really feeling it inside anymore as much as maybe you used to, or maybe you never did.
Right, right. It's also like, oh, this is what I usually do on the weekends. Like, oh, I
Mm.
usually go on a hike on the weekends, or I usually like help my husband with X, Y, and Z on the weekends. So that's what I'm gonna do instead of being active in the choices that you're making.
Intentional.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the second symptom is that you keep pushing down an inner knowing or a whisper. Sometimes this is symptoms from your body, like you're really tired, but you're like, I'm not tired, right? I just shouldn't be tired right now. I'm just going to keep going. I'm just going to keep pushing through. That's what I have to do. What other symptoms of pushing down your inner knowing do you feel?
To me, it's like you get like an annoying sense that you're not in the right place, but you're like,
Mm.
"Ah," annoyed with yourself when
Mm.
this whisper comes up. There's
Mm.
a Cheryl Strayed in her book Tiny Beautiful Things. She talks about how when you're meant to leave a relationship or a job, you'll have the word "go" being whispered from like a place deep inside of you. It's your
Mhm.
intuition whispering "go, go, go," and you don't want to go because leaving is inconvenient.
Mhm. I
Um,
really felt this in North Carolina the last time I lived there, I like moved back after van life. And the whole time I was there for that 1 year lease, I was just feeling like I don't belong here. And that phrase just kept popping up in my head over and over. And I was like, what the heck? Where do I go then? Where am I supposed to go? Also, it's so
Mm-hmm.
expensive to move.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we think about all the reasons why it's not a good idea, but the whisper is not going anywhere.
Mhm.
The whisper only gets louder. It was
Mhm.
like that for me for the Pacific Crest Trail. Like I was like, I'm not gonna walk across an entire country. Who does that? Only crazy people. But the whisper was like, you have to do it. You have to do it. You have to do it. I was like, okay, leave me alone. Like it just gets louder and louder. And yeah, symptom number 2 that you're out of alignment is that you try to push that down.
Mhm. Mhm.
What's symptom number 3?
You rely on a rational story to stay where you are. It makes sense because it really goes along with number 2, actually. Like, it makes sense because it would cost me $8,000 to move from North Carolina to Massachusetts. It makes sense because only crazy people hike the PCT, right?
Yeah, exactly. We kind of merged into symptom number 3. With my ex, I was like, I cannot leave him. I'm 33 years old. I want children. He's going to be a good dad. It's
Mhm.
very rational.
Yeah. And actually a good point that we bled into number 3 because a lot of times you're experiencing one or many of these symptoms, like they kind of all
Blend.
coexist together. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah. Another symptom might be that you need to do a lot of numbing. I am the kind of person who really loves numbing. When I was trying to decide if I should move out of North Carolina, this is hard to admit on a public podcast, but I was like drinking half or a whole bottle of wine every single night and watching TV while doing embroidery to fully turn my brain off and not have to think about it all the time because my brain and my body were so persistent that I was not in the right place, but I like wasn't quite ready to make the change, you know?
Yeah. The image that comes to mind for me when you share this is like your truth is being broadcasted on a radio station in your mind that you
Mhm.
cannot turn off. You cannot
Mhm.
turn it off. It's being broadcasted 24/7. And all you can do if you disagree with the truth or if you don't like what it's telling you is like create noise that's louder
Mhm.
or like numb yourself so that you don't hear it as much, like you said with the
Mhm.
alcohol. Some people do it with um, work,
Extreme
overworking.
exercise.
I know that in the last few months of my relationship, I would do a lot of shopping. When I look at my like bookkeeping from those months, it's like, oh my god, why did you spend $700 in that store? And since leaving my relationship, literally have bought like 2 pieces of clothing.
Mhm. Mhm.
And to me, that just says, okay, when you feel like you're in alignment, you don't need to compensate so
Mhm.
much.
Yeah, we reach for these like comfort things or things that turn our brain off. I listened to a podcast about how things affect your brain that we do to numb. So, exercise, alcohol, cannabis, and other types of drugs. And they say that drinking alcohol is like taking a sledgehammer to your brain and basically just like beating it over and over. Cannabis is basically like splashing red paint all over it and just like kind of covering it all up and making an interesting fog. Exercise actually helps you process the things and sometimes can just bring a sense of calm to your body because of the endorphins you get from it. But all of those things at the end of the day can give you that numb feeling, right?
Yeah, I think you can numb with anything.
Social
Numbing is
media.
when you overdo it.
Mhm,
It's
mhm,
the energy that you do it with. You can numb with self growth.
mhm,
You can like binge read self help books.
mhm.
And
Yeah,
that's a way of numbing. I think you can numb with anything. It's just you're numbing when you're
over consuming.
yeah,
Yeah.
consuming, yeah. When you're trying to avoid stillness and
Mm.
silence. Okay, let's move on to symptom number 5, which is you have a lot of random bad moods and physical discomforts. For
Yeah.
me, again, when I was in the last year of my relationship, I thought I had PMDD, the premenstrual. What's what the?
Premenstrual dysphoric disorder.
Yes, exactly. Like very intense PMS. My
Mm-hmm.
PMS was so intense, and
Yeah.
I thought I had like issues with my hormones, but it turns out it was just a symptom of avoiding the truth. And like I would feel waves of rage sometimes.
Yeah.
What about you? How does it show up?
I have actual PMDD. It's hard to tell, but typically I start to get sort of distant from where I am. I have a hard time being present and I'm definitely more irritable. And I almost feel like I'm kind of in a hurry, but I'm not really sure why I'm in a hurry or where I'm trying to get to. It's just that I'm trying to
Mhm.
fill all of my time. So it turns into mood swings because you're constantly rushing and pushing yourself and I already have PMDD, so I'm already irritable enough.
Mhm.
Yeah. And you're
Yeah.
short and sharp with people, especially if they're people that you're going to have to make a change with, especially when you're with a partner that you're like, oh, I shouldn't be with this person, but so I'm
Mhm.
just going to get grumpy with them.
Mhm. Yeah. You focus on random things like they didn't do the dishes.
Oh my
When
God.
actually the truth is you're angry with yourself for still being with them.
Hmm. Yeah.
A moment of silence for everyone who's ever been in those hard situations and for everyone who currently is.
Mm, yes. Yeah. A moment of silence because you won't force yourself to sit in silence on your own.
So, we're not going to do a whole minute of silence because people are going to stop the podcast, but like tune in and ask yourself if these symptoms resonate. If you see yourself, if there's something that your body knows right now that you are not quite yet ready to admit,
Mm-hmm.
something that needs to change that you wish could stay the same because you're afraid. The rest of the episode is going to be for you because we're going to talk about the fears, the 5 biggest fears that come with change. The reason why most people stay in denial. And we're going to give you reframes, a bunch of reframes for each fear to shift your perspective and maybe see those fears in a different way. It's still going to be scary. Making big changes is still terrifying,
Mm-hmm.
but hopefully we'll bring new ways of thinking that might make it seem worthwhile or at least more manageable. Does that sound
Yeah.
good?
Yeah, I love talking about this part because these are like the roadblocks that we get stuck at. And there's always something in your head that will say, it's not the right time or I'm not ready yet. There's never a right time. Like your body will tell you when you're ready, and your body might have already told you were ready and you just haven't realized it yet. So it's kind
Mm-hmm.
of exciting to start thinking about these things, even though they feel scary at the same time.
Yeah.
I also love that anxiety and fear are the same chemicals in your brain, and
Mm.
starting to ask yourself, is this anxiety? Am I trying to predict the future? Am I uncomfortable? Or is this actual fear and something really wrong could happen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the first big fear is fear of failure. That might sound like it's not going to work. Fear of failure has been a huge thing in my life. Oh my God, you guys. I have always had a fear of failure from the moment I started getting grades at school. Like, literally, an F, a failure, was my biggest fear for the longest time as a child. I had straight A's until one college math class and I got a B. And I cried. I cried so hard. I only got a B because I had a group project and I didn't work on it as a group. I did it by myself because I didn't trust the people in the group. Regrets. But that was my first failure. And then after that, I started experiencing what I thought was failure more and more. I got into a career that I decided I didn't like. I didn't get my highest score on the law school admissions test. I got waitlisted for every law school I applied to. I quit my political job and my law office job and ended up working as a barista, all of these things to a younger me were complete and utter failure. And just like felt so disappointed in myself. I thought everyone else was going to be disappointed in me. My parents were expecting me to go to law school. My nan, my poor old nan, who just wanted a lawyer in the family, classic Jewish nan. I just couldn't live up to those expectations because they weren't right for me. But actually, once you get into failure and you start looking at like what's next, what's the next possibility, every time you confront failure, it starts to get easier. And the best way to look at it for me is like, if you're failing, then you're trying. And you can always try something different if it
For
doesn't
sure.
work.
For sure. And I love that you said what I thought was failure, because that's really important. Failure means something different to everyone. And it's really important to interrogate what you think failure is.
Yeah, and to be clear, like my family didn't think I was a failure. No one in my family thought I was a failure because of any of these things, and they would not act that way. Like they were so supportive. It was all in my mind.
To me, failure is just something that doesn't go according to expectations.
Mm.
And it's just like a part of the journey. You do something, it doesn't go according to expectations, you learn from it, you take note, and then you do something else. You do it better next time, or you do it in a way that's more aligned with you. My big failure story is I wanted to through hike the Pacific Crest Trail, but I was terrified that I would fail and come back after two weeks, that I wouldn't be able to do it, and that I would have put my career on hold and then come home and be like, huh, never mind, that was not possible. I'm not yeah.
Yeah.
And someone told me, well, wouldn't that be more courageous, like to try it, to go and try it and spend 2 weeks on the trail, than to just tell yourself forever that it's not for you and just stay at home and give up ahead of time, decide ahead of time that it's not going to work?
That's a
That's
great someone.
right. I don't remember who it was, but thanks to that someone.
Yeah. Looking at it like it's just a part of the story and that you can keep going, you can take responsibility and keep working at it, or decide it's not for you, or have your own back when these things are happening, is such a different place to come at it from. Unlike my younger self, who's just like, well, if I fail at this, there's nothing left for me. It's
Yeah, we
not
make it
true.
mean all of these awful things. Like you said, like, I'm a failure. No, you get to decide what you make it mean. Like, you can decide you're a failure, or you can decide you're really effing courageous for having tried. Um, yeah. I mean, many people say it's not going to work. It's not going to work. What if it doesn't work? And what I always tell them is, you decide that you're going to make it work, that you're going to figure it out, that you're someone who figures shit out.
We always figure it out.
Yeah,
Life will keep going and you'll figure it out.
Yeah, and you get to decide if you're going to be an asshole to yourself when it doesn't go according to the plan. You don't have to be. You don't have to be. Like, when your best friend does something that they see as failure, you would never. You would be like, "Come on, that's fine. Like, you did your best. Now try something else." You've got to be your own best friend. That sounds cheesy, but it's like the best advice.
It so is. Being mean to yourself is not going to help you get anywhere. It's not. I learned that the hard way.
Okay, fear number 2 is fear of regret. What if I changed career and I'm not happier? What if I wish I would have stayed? Okay. Let's talk about this. You don't want to make a decision because you think it's going to fix everything in your life. Because whatever you choose to do, let's say you choose to change career, life is still challenging. There's no there's the coach Carol Lowenthal. She says there's no off ramp to the human experience. Like, there's no job you will choose or partner you will choose where you will be happy 24/7. That just doesn't exist.
Mhm.
You've got to choose the kind of challenge that you want to face.
Mhm.
So, do you, for example, want the misery of not loving your job for the next 15 years? Or do you want the misery of learning to do something new that you love, but it's just awkward because you're a beginner?
Mm.
Do you want the misery of being in an unfulfilling relationship for the next 15 years? Or do you want the misery of that comes with dating, the trial and error that comes with dating? It's like you choose your pain, you choose the hard.
Mhm. Mhm. I listened to this podcast is actually about dating, and one of the things that they said was, we choose the price we pay. Nobody's perfect. No job is perfect. Nothing in life is perfect. What price are you willing to pay? The price could be a partner who doesn't do the dishes, but is an amazing partner and you're totally head over heels in love with them and obsessed with them. I have one of those. The price could be like, I'm an entrepreneur and it's kind of stressful and my income is really unpredictable, but I love my job and it makes me really happy. It's very fulfilling and I live for this, right? So I feel like that kind of goes along with this. Like, there's never going to be something that doesn't cost you something or doesn't feel uncomfortable in some way. The price I pay for learning how to roller skating is feeling embarrassed in my body sometimes and having bruises on my knees. But you know what? I'm pretty freaking cool when I do get it right. And I
Mhm.
feel good in my body when I'm doing it, right? There's always a price you pay. Am I ever going to regret these things? Who knows? But it's not, regret isn't, we have feelings and feelings are temporary. So just
Exactly.
like failure, yeah, you can feel regret, but it's going to dissipate and you're going to learn how to make better decisions for yourself, because if you regret something, it's telling you. It's like, oh, maybe I didn't want that. And most things, maybe not breaking up with somebody, that's not repairable, but a lot of things are repairable. Like if I
Having children is
decided,
not repairable.
oh, that's true. That's true. That's true.
But
That's fair. I was just
yeah.
thinking about like jobs. Like if I regretted quitting my barista job and becoming a freelancer full time, I could just go get another barista job, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
But
There's lots of
not
decisions you
everything
can go
is.
back on. But
Hmm.
also like you said, I think it's important to hammer on this. Regret is temporary. It's just a moment where it is hard. Let's say I felt regret like a few months after leaving my ex because I felt lonely. I felt lonely. And so I was like, why did I do this? But now that I am in a new relationship with a partner that I love, that in a relationship that's so much more fulfilling and aligned with who I am, I don't feel regret. So
Hmm.
regret was just like a moment, a challenging moment, and an opportunity to one strengthen my self trust, to be like, okay, I trust the past version of me and the decision that she made, and two, an occasion to strengthen my relationship with myself. Like, okay,
Hmm.
you feel regret. What's this about? Like, what's this really about? What's underneath the regret? Because it's okay. It's just loneliness. It's just sadness.
Hmm. I
L-
think it's a good time to mention my favorite journaling exercise. I also actually use this to help me write sales copy, which is funny. But I just ask why 5 times. And the first time you ask why, you'll be like, well, I feel kind of lonely right now. And then the second time you ask why, you're like, well, I feel kind of lonely because I'm not with my partner. And the third time you ask why, you realize, well, I feel kind of lonely because I'm not with my partner, but I broke up with them for a reason. And then the fourth time you ask why, right? It just digs deeper every time. And you realize that first thing I said, I feel kind of lonely, is totally balanced out by, I'm actually kind of optimistic about meeting someone new, even though dating's going to be hard and I feel pretty lonely right now.
mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's okay to feel lonely. It's okay to feel sad. I think it's Brené Brown who says something along the lines of, if you want to open yourself up to big joy, you also have to be open to big pain.
Mm-hmm.
If you
Mm-hmm.
want a deeply meaningful and fulfilling life, you are going to experience a lot of hardship, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of pain.
This is
It,
why I
it,
love that movie Inside Out.
yes.
Joy and sadness have equal roles in the movie if you look at the amount of lines they have.
That's amazing. Best movies. And the second one was amazing too.
Oh, it was so good. I took myself on a date to see it.
Mm.
Love a solo date.
I love a solo date too. Oh, I love solo dates to the bookshop. I
Oh,
like gather a huge pile of books. Then I go to the bookshop coffee shop and then get like a hot chocolate or a cookie and then sit with my pile of books and look at them. It's amazing.
that sounds so good. I love it.
Okay, where are
All right.
we?
The third fear of commitment. What if I change my mind and feel stuck? Uh, whew. The situations where I'm afraid of commitment, listen, moving to Massachusetts from North Carolina, it might kind of be a reversible decision, but it's very expensive and it is not something I wanted to do again. I did get scared. I'm from Massachusetts. I'm from this area. So I'm from the state. I'm not from the town I'm currently living in. But I've lived here before. And there was a time in my life, which was actually after I finished the Appalachian Trail and I first moved to North Carolina in like 2018. And I thought to myself, oh, I'll never move back to New England. Absolutely not. And then here's me 5 years later wanting to move to Massachusetts. Who is she? Why? Am I going to get stuck there? Like when I was a teenager growing up in New England, I just wanted to get out so bad. I felt stuck in the valley I grew up in. I was like, there's so much more out there to see and do. But after traveling full time for an entire year in my van and then hiking the Appalachian Trail before that, and seeing the entire country, I very much was like, I love New England. I love visiting all of these other places. They're fantastic. But like, I actually kind of just want to live in Massachusetts where I feel safe and happy. And the people are like ever so slightly rude to each other on the roads. And I can honk my horn without being scared of somebody like bashing my windshield in or something. Like, I miss where I grew up. And I followed that and it worked out. But I think the important thing to think here isn't just that, like, it's a contradictory feeling. There's all these contradictory feelings that you're going to have. And a lot of them are fear based. And that big fear of commitment of moving here, my dad actually reminded me, you can always move back. You can always change your mind. It's okay. Like,
Yeah, but many people don't give themselves the permission to change their minds. I think that's how we've been
mm,
brought up. Like you pick a career, you pick a town, and you stay there. And if you change your mind, you're kind of weird, you're kind of irresponsible, you're kind of childish.
you're
That's
stuck.
adults people,
Grown ups.
grown ups. They pick a path and they stick to it. But f that.
Yeah.
You're
I
allowed
mean,
to change your mind.
it's just like the law school thing. I changed my mind. I decided not to go to law school, and that was terrifying. And I really thought about whether I would regret it. But I think the best thing about permission is that like you can give yourself permission to do most of the things that you might feel like you can't. Like, write yourself a permission slip. We're not in elementary school. You don't need a signature from your mom or your dad or your grandparents or your best friend or whoever you think is judging you on Instagram.
Yeah. I
You can
mean,
sign that permission slip.
it's like who says you have to interrogate your belief system? Who says you can't change your mind? Oh, it's the culture. Is
Mm,
that the value system that you want to abide by, or do you think differently?
mm,
I think there's nothing wrong with changing career at 30 years old. I think there's nothing wrong at, and some people do. Some people think it's silly. Well, I don't think so, and it's my life.
yeah.
I'm the one living my life.
Yeah. And also, the best way to change culture is to be the change you want to see. It'll
Yeah.
have a ripple effect. You never know who else is also experiencing these things around you, too, who also
Mm-hmm.
needs permission, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. That was fear of commitment. Now, fear number 4, fear of inadequacy. So, what if I'm not good enough? What if you want to, let's say you want to change career, what if I'm not good enough to do this? What if I've what's it called? The upper limit problem. Like, what if I've reached my ceiling and I can't
Oh,
do
yeah, the
more?
glass ceiling. Well, that's
Yeah.
a very feminist agenda, but yeah,
Yeah, it's
not that term.
actually not that guy Hendricks in his book The Big Leap. He talks about how some people don't make the leap because they have an upper limit problem. They feel like
Mm.
they're at the top of their potential.
Mm.
But to me, when you're feeling called towards something and you worry that you're not good enough for it, it's a challenge. It's like your life curriculum. It's like the universe telling you, here's the ways in which you need to grow. It's your own personal learning and development plan. It's like,
Mhm.
okay, I don't think I can do it. Let me figure out, let me become the kind of person who can do it. What do I need to learn? What are the skills I need to develop? How does my mindset need to change?
Mhm. I also wanna, like, put a little caveat on that because sometimes it feels like there's a lot to learn or a lot to change or it can be overwhelming. You learn over time. You will take breaks during that process when you feel like you've consumed too much, and you will find your way so much more naturally than you ever think is possible. And all these little things will pop up that will help these concepts that you're learning stick when you least expect them. Like when you're listening to a podcast episode or you're driving down the street or having a conversation with your friend. Learning doesn't necessarily have to be this formal thing like it has been in our past lives. It can be reading books, it can be watching YouTube videos, it can be listening to podcasts, it can be trying something out, it can be talking to people. And that is something that if you want to live an intentional life, you're probably going to be doing in some way, shape, or form for the rest of your life. And it can actually be like super fun and joyful, but it can also be overwhelming. And that's totally normal and okay. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't try, because that like fear of inadequacy, if you confront that and work on it, it will also bolster your confidence and you will see yourself become such a strong, capable person. You're already a strong, capable person, and you can grow into that self and step into that self just by deciding I can be good enough, even if I'm not good enough right now.
Yeah, I'm not good enough at this yet, but I
Yet.
can be. What the issue that I often see and how I visualize it is people are at the bottom of the stairs and they think they need to be at the top of the stairs already. But no, it's like one little step at a time, and you have to be willing to suck at the beginning, to be average at something at the beginning.
Mhm.
And next thing you know, you're going to look back. Like I look back on the last 4 years. I've been a coach and a business owner for 4 years. The hundreds of things I have learned how to do, it was just one step at a time. And now I have this whole skill set that
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
didn't have before.
Yeah, the biggest symptom I see of people having a fear of inadequacy and not even realizing it is comparing themselves to other people, especially on the internet. You have no idea what that person's story is, what they're posturing, what their confidence is actually like in their brain, what they had to do to get to where they are, how long they've been doing this. Like, there's no such thing as an overnight success. And my favorite example of this right now, it's very in the zeitgeist. Chapel Roan, it took her 10 frickin' years to get to where she is now. And people are calling her an overnight success.
Oh my God.
It's a joke. It's not real. It's something that we make up because we as humans are so hopeful that we could like do that overnight, but we're not built for that. And if you had overnight success, if you went from the bottom of the staircase to the top of the staircase in like a week, your body and your brain would not be able to handle that, and it would suck so hard. You'd be there
Right?
like, I feel like I'm supposed to know what I'm doing, but I have no idea how to do this.
You wouldn't have the skills, you wouldn't have the nervous system capacity to hold all of it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And there's just like, people compare themselves to me. I get on podcasts to be interviewed frequently, and people are like, wow, I wish, I've literally had someone say this to me on a podcast, I wish I had the resource library that you've built for your clients. I really aspire to do that. And I looked at her and I was like, I have literally been building this for 4 years. I probably spend maybe 5 hours a month building resources for this library over the course of 4 years. And it
Mm-hmm.
seems massive, but it was little teeny tiny baby steps. What's 5 hours a month? It seems like nothing, but that
Yeah.
sometimes is what it takes.
I had a client who wanted to be a freelance writer, and she talked to me about you. She was like, "But I don't know if I can do it. Like Rachel can do it. She's so confident. She's so driven." I'm like, "Friend, Rachel was my client. She's full of doubts, like all of us. Like, don't be fooled. Don't be fooled." My sometimes I get frustrated because I think I should be further along on my journey, and my partner
Mhm.
reminds me, like, you're only 4 years in, you're still a beginner.
Yeah.
No. My parents built a business, and it took them like 10 years to start making money, and now they're living an amazing life. But in the first 10 years, everyone was like, clearly you haven't got your shit together, and you should stop and you should go get a job. But they were fierce, they were determined, and they kept going. But when, like, I worry that I haven't figured everything out yet, my parents are like, of course you haven't. You're 4 years in.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. No, this is such good reassurance. And it actually leads us perfectly to the fifth and final fear, fear of judgment. What will people think?
That's a big one.
It's such a tough one, too, because we as human beings are naturally inclined to worry about what other people are thinking of us. It's very normal. And unfortunately, we are the ones who have to deal with it. It's going to come up biologically, very naturally, anyway. Um, and it's tough to tell yourself, like, this is my life and I really want to be happy, but people are going to think I'm weird, or people are going to tell me that I should stop if I'm not succeeding after 6 months, or there's so many things that you can tell yourself. But the number one thing I've learned, because obviously I've experienced fearing people judging me, I've posted the most cringeworthy videos on every social media platform there is. Learning how to make good content and learning what content I actually like making. Spoiler alert, I'm not really into making reels, but I can make podcasts all day and turn them into reels. The fear of judgment almost always never comes true. I genuinely have never had somebody judge me to my face for what I'm doing. I've definitely had my nan be like, when are you going to get a real job? But first of all, who cares? And second of all, once I started earning as much as my cousins were at their quote unquote real jobs, she understood that, like, oh, this is viable, and I trust her now. And the majority of the time, whatever you're afraid of, no one else is thinking about you. No one else is judging you that way. You are your own worst critic. I personally, like, I'm not worried about what other people are thinking of me, because no one could hurt my feelings more than my inner critic. Her name's Deborah. I named her that. It's really helpful to name your inner critic and be like, you know what, Deborah? No, stop being so mean to me. I'm going to try it anyway. And then cringe it out, But that's also a skill that you can learn how to build. Like, not being afraid of what other people think, I genuinely believe is a skill that you build up. It's a tolerance you build up. It's just like fear of rejection. If you send a million pitches, eventually you're not going to be afraid of rejection anymore, because some of
Mm-hmm.
them will come back, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So true. And things that I tell myself that help with fear of judgment is, one, let people be wrong about you. You know who you are. Let
Mm-hmm.
people be wrong about you. There will always be people who are wrong about you. That's number one. And number two, the other day I was at spinning, and there's a spinning teacher that I don't really like, and I was I was like bitching about her to my friend, and then realized, actually, I can bitch about her with my friend. It doesn't change anything to her life. She
Mm-hmm.
doesn't hear it, and she gets to have the best day. And some people probably love her classes. So
Yep.
there are probably people out there who judge me for deciding to leave my career as a graphic designer and become a life coach, they probably say, oh, she's a life coach on the internet. So what? I'm so much more fulfilled than I used to be.
Mhm.
And what they say behind my back doesn't affect me. And it's just like a tiny moment in their conversation. We all like to gossip.
Mhm. Yeah.
And also like a lot of the time, like you said, we are our own worst critic.
Mhm.
And when we think, oh, I'm afraid they're going to judge me, they're going to think this and that, it's you judging yourself. It's the
Yeah.
internalized shame.
Yeah.
It's so that's worth looking into.
Yeah.
Why am I worried they're going to think that? It's probably because part of me is where judges myself. Why do I judge myself?
Mhm. Mhm.
Why?
Yeah. There's one last thing I want to add to the whole fear of judgment thing. I've started teaching myself to filter the things that I see on the internet as for me and not for me. The
Example.
things that are for me, they make me energized, they feed me, they're typically positive, or they're people helping each other on the internet. With LinkedIn especially, I really struggle with like negativity, finance bros, the things that are like a little too corporate for me. But I use LinkedIn to get clients and it's really effective for me. So I know I want to be on there because it will help me with my life. So the things that are for me are people who respond to my pitches and are excited to work with me. They're people who comment on my posts and want to have a genuine conversation. They're people who are starting conversations in their posts that are like really positive and helping each other out and bringing the freelance community together. The things that are not for me are people who are like spamming my DMs with pitches to work for me when I'm obviously not hiring anybody. I just ignore them. The things that are not for me, people who send me connection requests that I don't know, that I don't really want to connect with. Not for me, just ignore it. The things that are not for me, I've started to ignore, and it becomes easier and easier to ignore. And then the platform becomes so much more enjoyable for me. And so I've started applying this to other areas of my life, like criticism from other people and like people who are just like I was in a coffee shop one day and I was working and I had like a 10-minute call with a client, and typically I don't take calls in coffee shops, but I was like, oh, it's only 10 minutes, it's no big deal. We had our call, and literally a minute before I was about to hang up and say goodbye to this client, this guy who was sitting kind of next to me, there were 5 other empty tables in this coffee shop. There is no reason he had to be sitting directly next to me at a bar by the window. He turned to me and very angrily said, "You're being really loud right now. You really need to quiet down. You shouldn't be taking video calls at a cafe." And I was like, "I'm really sorry I disturbed you." And then I turned back to the client, and the client was like, "Wow, what an asshole. I heard that whole thing." And we laughed about it and we moved on with our date. It was totally fine. And I didn't let it get to me because I was like, that guy is not for me. He is obviously not interested in what I'm interested in life. And then later on, he took a phone call in the cafe and he was so angry on the phone. Like you could tell he was angry and he was so loud. And I was just, this new reframe, I'm just like literally laughing. Like a previous me would have been so infuriated by this hypocrisy. And me now, I'm just like, that guy is not for me.
Mhm.
You're not going to be for everyone, and everyone is not going to be for you. And that is okay.
That's so good. One of my mentors, Simone Seol, she says you have to be willing to repel in order to attract. If you want to be surrounded by people that feel like home, you have to be willing to repel those that are not for you. Like
Mm-hmm.
I definitely, when I was dating, when I was like starting conversations on dating apps, there's the question like, what do you do for work? There were a few times when I said I'm a life coach, where I remember this one person said, I must be honest, I have a negative bias towards your job. I was like, okay,
Not for me.
not for me. So it acts, you like pursuing your truth acts as a filter.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly you're not for me. If you don't like, I want someone who like wholeheartedly supports me in my dreams. So thanks
Yeah.
for letting me know it's not you. Bye.
Yeah. Yeah. Quick filter. Ooh,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
save some time. Love it.
So these were the 5 fears. We have fear of my notes. Okay. Fear of Failure, fear of regret, fear of commitment, fear of inadequacy, and fear of judgment.
Yeah. I do want to talk real quick before we wrap up about why you might want to find these symptoms within yourself, confront these fears, and actually pursue the thing that you might be feeling, like pursuing your truth, that little inner voice that's whispering to you, I don't belong here, or go, or whatever it is that you hear in your head. It's sort of like the opposite of the symptoms that we mentioned in the beginning, really, how you might feel if you get on the other side of confronting
Why
those
it's
roadblocks of
worthwhile.
failure. Yeah. Do you want to start?
Yeah, for sure. Well, first of all, when you are in alignment, you feel more present, you
Mm.
feel more at peace. There's like more silence in your mind. There's you feel more embodied. Like
Mhm.
because your mind, your soul, and your body all want to be where you are. So it makes everything easier. I'm not saying life becomes easy, but life is easier because you're not lying to yourself.
Mm-hmm. You don't feel that need to pack your schedule so you're so busy that you can't think of anything, and then drink a whole bottle of wine at night and do embroidery while you watch YouTube on your projector
Mhm.
in your living room.
um,
That was so specific. That was me.
and again, I want to say that you can do embroidery and watch YouTube when you pursue your truth. You just do it from a different place where you're just
I
doing
still
it
do
for
it.
joy
I do it
instead
for
of for
fun now.
numbing, right? It's important to
Exactly.
mention.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with my hobbies. The wrongness was in over consuming it and revenge procrastination against my
Mhm.
bedtime and overconsumption of all of the above to numb
Mhm.
myself.
Yeah.
I now can like have free time after work and not freak out. And I
Mhm.
used to have this thing where I would, as soon as work was over, because I force myself to work 10 to 4 as much as possible so that I'm not overworking myself. As soon as 4 p.m. hit, I used to have this anxiety of like, what am I going to do with the rest of my day? Oh, no, no, no. And my thoughts would happen and I would freak out. And I felt like I needed to be doing something. I needed to have something on my schedule with my friends. I needed to be like out paddleboarding or rock climbing or like, or numbing myself with alcohol or social media or whatever I wanted to do.
Mhm.
I don't feel that anymore at all.
Mm. The feeling of contentment is powerful.
Mhm.
I remember after 1 week on the Pacific Crest Trail, I had to overcome so many obstacles in order to get there. And I was just standing there looking at the view, and I thought, I am so content right now, I could
Mm.
die.
Yes.
Versus
I
like
have that
so
feeling
many
too.
days where I would go to work and be like, I can't wait for the weekend to come around, and look at myself in the mirror and think, like, if this is my last day, if this is my last week on earth, like, what the hell? I've missed out. Like, I have regret. I'm gonna have, if I keep going, I'm gonna have regrets,
Yeah.
like major regrets about all the things I haven't done.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
that's one of the there's been research about what people who are about to die, what they regret, and one of the things they regret is the things they wish they wanted to do but they were too afraid to do.
Mm. Yeah.
And
That's
we
sad.
talked about how regret is not that big of a deal, but like a lifetime of regret, of I wish I was more courageous.
That hits different than,
Yeah.
oof, I regret moving to Massachusetts, or oof, I regret quitting that
Mhm.
job, you know?
Mhm. Yeah.
That's so
Okay, what
true.
else? What are the other benefits, Rachel, of pursuing your truth?
Um, you're gonna have more energy because you don't have to spend all that energy pushing down that little whisper in your head, and you don't have to spend that energy masking and performing that person that you feel like you should be. The energy thing is huge for me personally. I am exhausted when something is wrong. And until I solve that problem, I will continue to be really tired,
Mhm.
and this is something that I've now picked up on as a sign of something being wrong. It took me a long time to learn this. And actually, initially, that exhaustion was diagnosed as clinical depression for me. And honestly, as soon as I got out of when I had that diagnosis, as soon as I got out of that career and decided, you know what, I'm going to pursue freelancing and I'm going to hike the Appalachian Trail, it all shifted. The depression lifted. I had so much energy. I would work like 12-hour shifts at I would work like 7 hours at one job, opening a coffee shop, and then I would go close the outdoor gear store in the same mall across the parking lot every single day, 6 days a week, and then go hike on the seventh day and prep for my Appalachian Trail through hike because I was so stoked again. And I
Mm-hmm.
thought before that, when I was in that other career, when I was so exhausted trying to keep up with like applying for law school and working in a law office and working on campaigns, I thought that I was like ill, that there was something. I mean, I do have health conditions, but not like that. I was so unbelievably tired. It was hard to just go to a 5-hour shift at the law office to push paper in an office with
Mm-hmm.
no windows.
And that's like we mentioned mood swings and stuff like that, but I think depression is an important one. I've seen it with so many of my clients who get diagnosed with clinical depression, and then when as soon as they start owning their truth, I had one who was like um, clinically depressed, smoking weed all the time. And then when she decided, actually, I'm going to start the podcast I've been wanting to start, and I'm going to train to become, I don't want to go into details because it's personal.
Mm-hmm.
Her, just like you, her depression disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe, depression is a real thing, but in more cases than we think, I think is only
Yeah, I completely agree because I've experienced it multiple times in my life, like so many times. And every time just finding my purpose and changing something in my life that sometimes it takes a little effort to uncover what's wrong and the thing that you need to change. But once I figure it out, I'm back. I'm off to the races. Like, let's go.
Mm-hmm. 100%.
Yeah.
And okay, so you're more present, more embodied, you have more energy, you also have more money,
Ooh,
like we were talking about, because you stop spending on a bunch of stuff you don't need, like the clothes
yeah.
example I was giving you earlier.
Yeah. The amount of money I spent on weed and alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
Clothes, weed, alcohol, online shopping. I
Yeah.
bought I bought a bunch of shoes that I don't wear. So in the moments, it gave me a boost.
Eating out because you're too depressed to cook.
Mm-hmm. So more
Yeah.
energy, more money. What else?
You'll also have more time because you're actually going to be more intentional with your time, and you're going to want to be more intentional with your time, and you will have the energy to be more intentional with your time. You'll be doing things that actually fit into your life to support you well. Like,
Hmm.
I no longer spend 6 hours a night drinking in front of the television. I usually spend that time like working out, making myself a nice dinner, going for a walk. I love walking my neighbor's dog. It's my new favorite thing.
Oh,
I really want a dog, but I feel like, now's maybe not the right time and they're elderly. So I just start walking their
that's
dog.
so
It's
sweet.
awesome. So good. 3 days a week.
You also stop hanging out with people that you don't really like friends
Yes.
that you used to hang out with. That you kind of feel forced to. Now that shit's over. You're only
Mm-mm.
gonna hang out with people that light you up. So like, not just more time, more energy, more money, but also better relationships.
Yeah, totally.
Relationships you
Totally.
feel excited about, people who support you, people who inspire you.
Mm-hmm. I think it's also helpful to note with relationships that you're excited about that light you up. Sometimes these are virtual. Like, I've actually spent quite a bit of time on FaceTime with people that I made friends with on the internet that we're
Mm-hmm.
now long distance friends and we support each other.
Same.
And yeah, listening to more podcasts, watching more YouTube videos. Like, I used to love watching YouTube videos of van lifers, like vlogs, before I started doing van life. And I didn't really have a lot of friends where I was because I had just moved there and I was feeling pretty lonely. So I watched a lot of fan life videos on YouTube, and that was so motivating. And the communities that a lot of those people create, you can make friends. Like I made friends with other van lifers who were watching those van life YouTube videos and then met them on the road in real life. So that was
Yeah, it's
really fun.
amazing. So many
Yeah.
people think you're limited to like your old friends from high school, from college, and then you evolve and you have nothing in common anymore. But you're not
Mhm.
limited to those people. Now, especially with the internet, you can make friends all over. Like I became friends with you, I became friends with Allison, who also came on
Mhm.
the podcast all through the internet.
Yeah. And
Um,
if it makes you feel any better, I literally am not friends with a single person that I went to high school or college with.
mm, yeah, it's not.
I'm not saying there's
Oh,
anything wrong with those people, but I'm not friends with any of them anymore.
mhm. Yeah, it's okay to let go sometimes if it
Yeah.
it doesn't bring you as much as it did, as much as it used to.
Mm.
Okay, so we talked about the symptoms that you're out of alignment. We talked about the most common barriers to change, and we talked about why it's actually worth facing those fears and pursuing your truth. Now,
Hmm.
we want to tell you about the retreat that we're hosting in October to help you do this. What we're going to do, it's called the Brave New Path Retreat. It's taking place October 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th. It's 4 days. And it's for those of you who feel lost, feel like you're going in circles, you're not being your authentic, unapologetic self. In this intensive retreat, we're going to help you get clear on what you want, where you want to go with your life, what direction you want to take wholeheartedly, and then we're going to teach you tools to manage those fears, to get to know your fears and figure out how to manage them so that you don't just give up at the first sign of a challenge, so that you don't like run back to comfort. To become someone who's like, yes, this is the kind of life, epic, meaningful life I want to lead. These are my new friends I do it with, and I feel supported because I have those people, but also because I have learned new tools.
Yeah, yeah. If you're looking for a weekend getaway that's sort of artist retreat meets summer camp, where you can have deep, honest hearts to heart with other people who are in really similar positions to you, where you might even make a really good friend for life and also learn the tools to build the life that you actually want to live. And, go for a hike and have a pizza party and eat s'mores around the campfire too, then this is definitely for you.
Mm-hmm. I'm excited. It's
I'm so
taking
excited.
place at an hour and a half from Montreal, where I live, in the mountains and the forest of Canada. So all you have to do is fly to Montreal, and we're gonna drive you. There's a shuttle from the airport to the chalet. It's a high-end modern chalet full of natural light, um, and we're going to drive you back to the airport. You can also fly to Burlington if it's easier for you, or drive.
Hmm.
It's also an hour and a half from Burlington.
Yeah, I'll be driving up from Massachusetts through Vermont. So
Yeah,
I'm excited. I can't wait to see you guys there.
I can't wait. If you want to book your ticket, you go to selfgrowthnerds.com/retreat. Selfgrowthnerds.com/retreat. Do it now. You have until September 1st, but do it now so it doesn't sell out.
There's only 6 spots left.
Yeah.
There's 2 spots in a shared room for $800, or you can get your own private room for $1,000.
Right. And there's a payment plan. You can pay in 2 installments instead of paying the whole full thing, if it makes it easier for you.
Yeah, I love a good payment plan.
Hmm. And
Keep that
again,
cash in my pocket.
the whole goal of this experience is that you leave feeling like your inner fire has been reignited, like you have been reintroduced to who you really are. 'Cause so many people fall into autopilot. You just live
Mhm.
life, you just Monday to Friday, you do something nice on the weekend, you start work again, and you get bored. You get disconnected from what used to excite you.
Mhm.
You get disconnected from your enthusiasm, from your creativity. And that weekend is going to be a moment to reconnect with that part of you.
Yeah. If you're feeling those 5 symptoms of misalignment, this is definitely for you. And if you relate it at all to those fears and the things that we talked about in this episode, this is like the mini little slice of pie, the little cherry on top of your Sunday. This podcast was that in comparison to the retreat. The retreat is the whole Sunday, and this is just the little cherry on top. So,
and if you're like, but Marie, Rachel, I have a wedding that weekend, or it's too expensive for me, or it doesn't fit into my schedule, but I still really want to do this work, I also offer an 8-week course all of September and October where we're going to do that work, but online. We're going to meet every week for 8 weeks. You're going to get coached. It's called The Courage to Start New. And it's more affordable as well. It's $280. If the retreat's not in your budget, you can check this course at selfgrowthnerds.com/courage. Again, it's for the same people. We want the same kind of result, but it's going to be online. And then for those of you who want the in-person magic, who want the bonfires, who want to see the forest in autumn, it's amazing here in autumn. It's bright
so
orange,
pretty.
bright yellow. It's magical. Then
Peak foliage.
selfgrowthnerds.com/retreat.
I've worked with Marie online before as well. We became friends because I used to be Marie's client.
Yes.
So if you want to get to where I am, no, I'm just kidding. 10 out of 10 recommend working with Marie, even virtually. She's amazing. So.
Oh, thanks, Rachel. Rachel and I's story started funny. We started messaging on Instagram, and then one day we spoke on the phone, and I just remember yelling at you, like, come on, because she had like these limiting beliefs. I was, no, this doesn't make sense. This is bullshit. Here's the truth.
I think
more capable
everyone needs a pep talk.
And then she hired me.
The best ones.
Then you hired me to yell at you every week.
Every week. Oh yeah, you give the best pep talks. I love to use Marie as my like annual reset. I hire her for a few months at the beginning of every year so I can get back on track. It's so helpful.
Amazing. Okay. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for listening all the way here. We wish you all an amazing week. Hope you're taking away 1 or 2 gems from this episode. Please let us know. Reach out on Instagram at selfgrowthnerds for me. And what's your Instagram?
My Instagram is at Rachel H. Meltzer. It's the same on Instagram, Threads, LinkedIn, and it's also my email, rachelhmeltzer@gmail.com. So if you want to reach out to me, I'm active on all those platforms.
Sweet. Okay. Bye, everyone.